right, thank you. Are you ready? All
Yep.
right.
And Delegate Lewis, I think I gave you sharing permission, so you might just want to check to make sure first, but yeah. So he can share his presentation on the screen. I'll just introduce myself to everybody here that doesn't already know me. I'm the new council chair for this beautifully combined council. And I am working in the public defender's office up in Jackson County, but I do a lot of reentry and community engagement work pretty much everywhere all across the state. So I'm really excited for all of us to be together in one space and be able to share resources and kind of learn from one another and kind of grow this council and just be able to kind of share new things that we can learn from each other and use to help people that are coming through reentry or people that have already reentered or will be reentering in the future. So we have two special presenters today. Our first one's going to be Delegate Hollis Lewis, but he is going to present today on behalf of CIG and First Choice Services. So he's going to be first up, and I'll let him introduce himself. I think you're on mute, Delegate Lewis.
Okay. Are we seeing the screen, the PowerPoint?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, guys. All right, let me just right quick. Just give me 1 second. Lord, hold on. Sorry. All right. Again, my name is Hollis Lewis. I'm a House of Delegate member representing the 57th district. That's South Charleston, Dunbar, Charleston area. But in addition to that, my day job is being a CIT director. I'm the CIT West Virginia project director here at First Choice Services. And so basically what I want to tell you is a little bit about what First Choice Service does and our new initiative in launching CIT. All right, that's a little bit about me. Like I said, I'm in the House of Delegates. I'm the minority chair of the Jails and Prisons Committee on the WVU Law Institute. I've been on the parole board and been on the magistrate. So far as reentry and when it comes to these different societal things, when it comes to criminality, substance use disorder, behavioral health, I've kind of been on one side and I'm transitioning to the other side. So my perspective is a little bit different. Now, what is CIT? CIT stands for Crisis Intervention Teams. CIT started in Memphis, as you can see here. Basically, what happened is that you had an officer-involved shooting. That person who, the victim in that situation, was a mentally ill person, who unfortunately lost his life. There was a lot of uprising in the community. And the mayor at that time, Mayor Hackney, he got together with, the police, mental health professionals, educators, law enforcement, different people of that nature to try to quell the community's uprising. And from those meetings, from this tragic incident, rose crisis intervention teams. Now, what are crisis intervention teams? Crisis intervention teams are community-based programs that partner with law enforcement, first responders, EMS, firefighters, mental health professionals, substance use disorder professionals, advocates, in order to build a better response to persons in crisis. This is accomplished through the first step is a 40-hour training in which you learn about different mental health conditions. You learn about SUD, and you learn about de-escalation tactics and different things of that nature. And in addition, and probably the most important step, is you learn about community resources. Because a lot of times what we find is that, even persons who work in the community, particularly law enforcement, first responders, firefighters, EMS, they're not aware of all the different resources in the community. Because as we know, a lot of incidents or interactions with law enforcement aren't necessarily criminal justice related. Some interactions, if you have somebody acting erratic on the street, that person the right person, the right place for that person isn't necessarily in prison or jail. It may be, in a mental health facility or some SUD or substance use treatment. Again, CIT, our goals are simple. We want to engage the entire community. That's kind of what I like about this, because although, the training is, specifically for our first responders. And when I say first responders, I'm including law enforcement, firefighters, EMS. But it's a community engagement, which we try to bring the community in order to, like I said, build these better response to persons in crisis. Currently, there are about 3,000 CIT programs across the country. In West Virginia, we have, and I'll show you a map a little bit later, but we have about 4 or 5 up and running CIT programs. Probably the most tenured program is in Wheeling, West Virginia, with Police Chief Schwarzenegger up there. He has a pretty robust CIT program. However, there are CIT programs in Huntington, Beckley. I know the Beckley Sheriff. We just had our CIT training here in Charleston. He's the sheriff-elect. He's going to start one down there in Raleigh County. And then you have CIT programs in Mercer, Wyoming, and McDowell County as well. Martinsburg trying to start theirs, and so is Buchanan. So, West Virginia, per usual, we are a little late to the game, but CIT programs are starting to come up. Now, first choice services. I'm sure you probably never heard of first choice services, but you may have heard of like the 988 helplines or the Help for West Virginia or our different crisis lines. First choice service, we house all these lines. So we're up here on Hillcrest in Charleston, and we are the call center for all the local, West Virginia lines. In addition to, we run some of the national lines. And so in addition to all that, we're starting our CIT initiative. So what is kind of first choice services role in CIT? We want to act as a hub. Acts as an informational hub. We want to assist the law enforcement and communities in building out these programs. We can assist in the training and just be a partner to any agency, any county, any part of the state that wishes to build out a CIT program. We're part of CIT International, which is they have the standards as far as the training and how to facilitate a CIT program properly. All right, so again, we know the stats in West Virginia as far as why CIT is right, because when we look at our overdose rates, we look at our substance abuse, we look at all these stats that I'm sure everybody in this room is familiar with. But what I'm going to go to next is some stats you may not be familiar with or may not be able to specifically know the numbers. So when we look at substance abuse, when we look at mental health crisis in West Virginia, these are some hardcore numbers that we can sort of sink our teeth into to let us know this problem is not going away and we have some major gaps to fill in. When we look at adults experiencing mental health crisis, you have over 330,000 adults experiencing some sort of mental health crisis. And for a state that only boasts a population of 1.7 million and declining, that's a pretty large percent of our state that has some experience with mental health crisis. And when we look at the second number here, 274,000 receive some mental health services. So that doesn't mean that those individuals receive adequate mental health services or they're receiving specific mental health that's going to bring a long-term solution. That could just mean calling a crisis line. On the other side of that, we have 90,000 adults experiencing some serious mental health illness. And when you take that number and when you look at our lack of services, when we don't have, I think we have like 2, 3, maybe 4, mental health facilities that can probably even help these individuals, those numbers are alarming. And lastly, 193,000 adults in West Virginia need but did not receive treatment for substance use disorder, So this is according to 2021 stat. So again, when we look at these numbers, we're seeing that the problems aren't going anywhere. And and I'll get to the point why these numbers are important here in a second. When we look at the supply and demand, right? So when you're looking at psychiatrists or psychologists, when you're looking at mental health counselors, when you look at addiction counselors, you're looking at a problem. This is projected by 2036 that you see the gap in services. So the demand is steadily rising or going up, but the supply of these individuals, these experts in these fields, is steadily going down. So the gap is continuing to rise. When we look at our incarceration rate, West Virginia ranks, we have per capita about 731 people out of 100,000 people are incarcerated. These stats that you're seeing, as far as, when you look at Louisiana at the top and then, West Virginia kind of in the middle there, these aren't like United States. These aren't like just here in the United States. These are globally. So globally, we're looking at how West Virginia ranks in the amount of people that we're incarcerating per capita. We're, in the top, what's this, 10, 15? These are parole eligibility dates within 5 years. So most of our prison population, they're going to be, I think this is like about 91% of our prison population is going to be released within 5 years. So what do all these numbers mean? So when we look at the number of our population that's experienced some sort of mental health crisis and some sort of SUD crisis, in addition with the amount of people we're locking up and then the amount of people that we're going to release, as you can see here within the 5-year period of them being incarcerated, that means that those individuals are going to be on the street and they're going to be without service. And what that means, hold on 1 second. And what that means is that those individuals are going to be without service and from professionals as far as SUD, mental health professionals. So law enforcement, first responders are going to be the ones tasked with dealing with those individuals. So that's why CIT, in my mind, in my perspective, is very, very important, because we have to get individuals who are going to ultimately be tasked with trying to manage individuals who may be experiencing some sort of crisis, to, number one, recognize that a person's in crisis, and then number two, know how to de-escalate said crisis, and number three, know how to refer services. Again, SUD, CIT, we partner with 911, we partner with municipality, state, federal, local government, behavioral health hospitals, citizen groups. CIT is really a community effort. It's not necessarily just about, law enforcement or first responders or mental health or anybody else. It's about anybody else, anybody in this community or in the local community that wants to assist in this matter. And in addition to that, CIT doesn't look the same in every community. Every community, as far as setting up a CIT program, is going to look different. For example, we had our CIT training here in Charleston. So in Charleston, we have a police, part of the police unit that's, going to be dealing with these crises, and they work directly with our care scene. And we were able to go around the city, really kind of, Charleston and South Charleston, but get to know some of the resources. But if you look at a place, we had a CIT training in Snowshoe, that's going to look vastly different than how Charleston is going to manage that. So the great thing about CIT model is that, although we do have standards like any other training or any other, trying to facilitate a CIT program, is going to look different from community to community. And it's based on what the community needs are. CIT training, it's a 40-hour training. You're going to do that over the course of a week. Like I said, you're going to get training as far as different mental health conditions. You're going to hear from people with lived experiences, as far as on the mental health side and the SUD side. You're going to get connected to community resources. You're going to have a bunch of role plays. It's going to teach you de-escalation tactics, depending on what that person is going through. The de-escalation tactics, the role plays, I should say, are really good because they're based on real events. Like I said, we're part of CIT International. And we also work with Trigon. Trigon is a organization out of Charlottesville, Virginia. So they do their version of CIT trainings and different things of that nature. I went through the Trigon model. As you can see, I'm right there in the back there. So what are some other trainings? In addition, we host a mental health first aider, where we teach you steps to deal with somebody who's going through a mental health crisis. And this is not necessarily maybe somebody on the street. This could be a coworker and, family member, anybody. We have 21st century policing. And again, we don't host the 21st century policing, but I think it's a noteworthy program. It's hosted by Earl Randall and Eddie Whitehead. They started out, doing cultural bias and emotional intelligence training in the police academies, but they're taking it from the police academies throughout the state and a bunch of different industry. It is an absolute fabulous program. First choice services. And again, these are programs that you can use right now. So if you know somebody in need, we have our 988 program. It's our crisis line. So if you know somebody in need, going through, having suicidal thoughts or just needs help, needs a counselor, you can call 988 and we can refer you to a person that can help. We have our Health for West Virginia. Again, same thing. We can refer you to somebody who needs SUD treatment, mental health treatment, different things like that. You can call either line and we can refer you to whatever services that you may need. We have our annual CIT Summit coming up in July. Again, it's going to bring leaders from throughout the nation, experts in, like I said, SUD, mental health, experts in crisis intervention training, successful programs, to just give you a overview of what a successful CIT program looks like. You can register if that's something you're interested in, something you and your team are interested in. This is a map of our various programs, CIT programs throughout the state. That this is hopefully growing. So that's all I have. I just wanted to show one more thing, if I could, Morgan.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Let's see. Give me 1 second. All right. In addition to CIT, and do we have any questions on CIT? Do we have any questions? Anything that I know I kind of went over it fast. Like I said, I don't want to I don't want to take too long everybody's time. But in addition to that, I also do lectures on parole successful strategies, hearings, and reentry. So in this lecture, I will go through what a successful parole hearing looks like, and again, from my perspective, how a person can be successful in the reentry process. So that's all I have. I thank everybody for being here. And do we have any questions on anything I went over? All right.
Thank you to Delegate Lewis for coming to join us, and you can hang out and listen to Kenny
Yeah, I'll hang out
if you want, but if you don't have time, you can go. And next on our presenters list is Kenny Matthews. He's with the American Friends Service Committee, and he's going to talk a little bit about Second Chance, Second Look Sentencing Act and some of the work that they're doing for community engagement with American Friends Service Committee.
Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me well? Great. As Morgan said, my name is Kenny Matthews. I'm the West Virginia Economic Justice Associate for American Friends Service Committee. I'm based here in Charleston. So basically what I do, and those that don't know, American Friends Service Committee is a Quaker organization. So we deal with a lot of decarceration, a lot of lobbying, a lot of anti-policing policies, anti-incarceration, and really try to create social programs to change the norm of what we do as far as individuals that are either suffering from mental health issues, substance use disorder, or even just habitual criminal conduct. And so one of the things that I do is I at the legislature here in Charleston, I help or develop policies to kind of change the needle a little bit so that we stop being one of the top 15 in the world of incarcerating individuals and uh, decrease that number. While there's many every year the legislature passes many laws to try to further incarcerate or further penalize individuals from a wide range of things. And we believe that policies such as Second Look can help change that. What Second Look does is it literally allows judicial court members, upon a motion given by the defendant, to give them a second look in their sentence. It's designed for those that have longer sentences. So we're talking about like our life with mercies, life without, those individuals that have been sentenced to several years, even decades within the judicial system. And this is because of a number of reasons. One is that West Virginia has an aging prison population. 1 in 4 that are incarcerated right now in the state of West Virginia is the age of 50 or above. So much so that 2 facilities had to have geriatric units placed within those facilities, being St. Mary's and Mount Olive. And I've been at both of those facilities as myself being formerly incarcerated. And it kind of begs the question if these individuals' health and age are such a manner that they need a paid position being orderly to take them around the facilities in wheelchairs or sit with them bedside while they're in a medical unit, then how much of a danger to society are they really? A lot of times we try to label people as being dangerous when it's really that we're just still mad at those individuals, that they're not really a danger. West Virginia, one of the other reasons why we developed this policy is because the current policies that are in place legislatively, being compassionate releases, medical furloughs, pardoning, and other measures like that, aren't being utilized. As kind of a little fact is that we've had in the state only 2 people since 2002 and 2022 been granted medical respite. Only 1 person was released through a conditional pardon, and that was 21 years ago. And no one has been released by full pardon. Now, during that same span of time, 478 people died within the West Virginia prison system. So people say, well, we have policies in place for these type of individuals. Yes, but they're not being used. So we feel like we need to develop policy that can be used and utilized. There are individuals, and one of the detractions that we hear is that, oh, they already have a policy called a Rule 35B, reconsideration of sentence, that can be used to allow a judge to reconsider the sentence that was imposed, which is true. However, this is again the caveat, is that Rule 35B motion has to be filed within 120 days of your sentence. All right. And the judge is under no obligation whatsoever to hear the merits of your motion. So it can sit on docket for the duration of your sentence. Now, why are those two things important to know? Is that one, for those that have been sentenced to, let's say, 15 years to life, what factor would a judge really be able to consider after 4 months to say this sentence is no longer needed, right? There is none, right? The Rule 35B is really for those that have sentences of like 1 to 5s, maybe 1 to 15s, that are for like drug convictions, simple, smaller other convictions that a judge can say, hey, they now have the ability to go into a residential rehab facility. So we're going to set aside their sentence to the DCR and send them to a rehab facility. It's for those type of events and those type of sentences. They're not for what we consider the violent crimes, the ones that people are afraid of people being released. So there's several states that are instituting second look policies. Our second look initiative, we modeled it after the DC model, where for those individuals that were sentenced between the ages of 18 and 25, a judge can take a second look at their sentence after they've served 10 years or more of their sentence. And why did we choose that age? Well, one is because science and criminal biology and all these criminologists and psychologists and psychiatrists have proven that during the ages of 18 to 25, a person's brain is still developing, and how they are during those ages typically isn't how they remain throughout the rest of their life. That they quite literally age out of crime, that their mental capacity changes, their thought process changes, how they react to situations change, and that who they are when they're in their 30s is no longer who they were when they were 18 to 25 and convicted of that criminal offense. The other reason is that for sentences like life with mercy or life without, is typically the 15-year range. So we wanted a process where someone can be released prior to that 15-year period, so 10 years. If you're sentenced at 18, you'd be 28. If you're sentenced at 25, you'd be 35. So that is a significant, it's basically half a generation. That say a generation is designated by a 20-year period. So it's a half a generation you've been incarcerated, and you can show tangible things within your incarceration to show that you are no longer that same individual as when you were first incarcerated. Also because of certain programs and weights that we're aware of within the DCR, typically a person who is really trying to rehabilitate themselves within the DCR can do every program available to them and get a college degree within that 10-year period. So a 10-year period allows them to show that one, that they're no longer a threat. They have institutional behavior record that shows that they're not getting into trouble, they're not causing any problems within the DCR system. It shows that they're also outside of that age range to where their brain function, their cognitive development has reached where the type of processes that they would carry on for the duration of their life typically, and it allows them to say, well, it's not the full amount, or it's not us they haven't done 3 decades in prison system. There's several states that are currently Minnesota, Michigan, of course, DC passed their second look initiative, and they're continuing to expand on it, and as well as other states. It's continuing to, father and other either offenses or people that are eligible for that second look. So that's what we are doing with our second look initiative. Last year, it was our first year of introducing our second look initiative into the West Virginia legislature. We had it sponsored, and we were preparing to have it presented in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. It didn't happen, and it didn't happen for a very, very specific reason. During the same time in the legislature, there were approximately 4 death penalty bills that were wanting to be introduced into the legislature. Our second look initiative, because of the work that we had done in advocacy and outreach to legislative members, we were getting some momentum behind. People were understanding the reasoning and the actual money that we would save the state. Because on average, the state pays roughly around $38,000 for every year that someone's incarcerated. So if someone's sentenced to life with mercy, 15 years, after 10 years, the state would have paid at least $380,000 for the incarceration of that person. And if we release them that 5 years early, just for that one person, we can save the state roughly $190,000 over that same period. You do that for 10 people, that's 1.9 million in a 5-year period. That just from the incarceration factor, we're saving the state. Now, sure, people let's call it, have seen and heard news blurbs where the regionals, the DCR facilities, state facilities are severely overcrowded. On average, they're 125% at capacity. Right. So we have this overcrowding issue, which is causing safety concerns. The regional jails are packed with people. The DCR facilities are packed with people. And we have the ability with this measure that would apply to roughly 25% of the DCR population to allow people to be released early. Now, what we try to combat is narrative, right? Because narrative scopes and shapes a lot of things. A lot of times we send people to prison because we're mad at them, not because they necessarily are still a danger to our communities. I saw firsthand while I was incarcerated at Mount Olive. I was released on parole from Mount Olive in 2020. One of the factors that allowed me to change so much and allowed me to come out and get involved in community organizing, get involved in advocacy and outreach was the fact that there was a group in Mount Olive of like 15 guys that had life without mercy, meaning they were, according to the law as it stands right now, they would never see outside of the prison facility. But they created a mentorship program in there to mentor those guys that would be released and saying, if you want to change how you are, you have to start now. Live in here in this facility as you want to live when you're released on the street. And that was a huge thing that allowed me to change a lot of the behaviors. They developed their own program called the Olive Tree Initiative, where they dealt with and group settings and one-on-one mentorship, they helped change the thought processes of those incarcerated that would be released. Now, if they're able to do that while having kind of no sense of hope, what makes them a danger to society? Or how much greater would they be in being released and developing programs or helping programs grow out here to reach at-risk youth so that they don't go down the same path that they want? Be able to help with reentry efforts for those that are being released from different facilities. And it's for that purpose that we're going to try to push the Second Look initiative again this year. Because of those death penalty bills, as a coalition, we made a decision to basically allow them to not put our Second Look initiative into a committee on the committee agenda, the Senate Judiciary agenda, but that also meant that they didn't put any of the death penalty bills on that same agenda. So we did that kind of strategically last year or this past session to avoid the death penalty possibly being furthered within the state legislature. And it was kind of a 4-to-1 ratio, which is we really wanted to try to continue to push Second Look because we did have some strong support for it, but we also understood that we need to kill those bills as much as possible as well, which is part of what we kind of do strategically fight and combat different bills. Like another bill that even Delegate Lewis was helpful in combating was a bill to make it where magistrates couldn't give people PR bonds for felony offenses, as well as they wanted to increase the penalty for certain drug-related offenses from 1 to 15 to 3 to 15, and make simple possession of substances a felony from a misdemeanor. So, in building our network and building our coalition, we combat. Not only do we introduce a lot of bills that we feel would be helpful with the prison population and decreasing that population, but it also saves the state money and brings added revenue into the state. One of the things is that someone's given the second look by a judge. They file the motion after they've been incarcerated for 10 years. The judge has to have a hearing. They have to have a hearing. They have to say yes or no and give the reasons why yes or no. There's a component in it for victims because of the fact that a lot of times the judicial system re-victimizes people, or the victims feel like they were unheard in the process. With our Second Look initiative, they have input in the process, whether good or bad. That's the thing. We want honest conversations. We don't want just one portion of the story. We want the complete story. So even if a victim says, you know what, this completely destroyed my family, this completely caused me to do this, we want that because there can only be healing in true, honest dialogue, which is part of what this process is designed to do, is help provide healing for those individuals, whether it's the offender or whether it's the ones that was victimized, to have the potential for healing and restoration. It also has a component in it where even the prosecutor can appeal the decision. Of course, if a judge tells an individual, no, like, I'm not gonna release you, or I'm gonna deny your motion, the person can appeal after 3 years and reapply and try to get that motion. And because the judge has to give factors as to why, a lot of times it gives them concrete measurables that they can say, well, you had, these institutional infractions 7 years ago. I want to see a complete 10 years of no institutional infraction, or you haven't completed this program, or I want you to get have a job in the facility for 2 years. It allows the individual to understand what is needed to really show and prove that they have been truly rehabilitated. There are those that say, well, aren't you worried about people kind of gaming the system that they know that this is available out there? They'll be on their best behavior, right? Which is true for a short term, right? But I don't know anybody that can fake being anything, whether a good or bad person, for 10 years without it actually becoming who they are. Right? You can only do something for so long if you're faking it before it becomes your natural habit and it's who you are, or that facade breaks down and you really show who you are in that time period. So which is why that 10-year period is also really important, because it's showing like, no, this is who they are. This isn't some fluke thing. This isn't just, they've been good for a year or two, or stayed out of trouble for a year or two, or they completed, these programs kind of thing. They're showing a pattern of conduct. They're showing a pattern of behavior that proves that they are no longer the person they were when they were initially incarcerated. So we are currently building, again, our coalition and support for our Second Look initiative. One of the things that I'm trying to do is build up stories around Second Look. So I'm trying to contact those that are in support for it, also those that aren't supportive of it. I'm going to contact those individuals that are still incarcerated, as well as those that are no longer incarcerated in their families, to really show the narrative of our Second Look policy. And so I had put earlier my name and number and my email address, which I'll do again as well, so that anyone that wants to be involved, wants to tell their story or know somebody, whether a family member or a friend, tell their story on the Second Look initiative, can get in contact with me and do their story. As part of our community engagement, one of the things is that we need to build a coalition, right? When the teachers union wanted a change in pay, right? They had 500,000 people at the Capitol saying this is what they want, right? And criminal justice, criminal law reform, substance use, mental health issues, we have a hard time doing that. I'm not sure why we have such a hard time doing that, but we need to build that solid base, right? Because for the last 3 years, I've basically been at the Capitol almost full time, right? And in those 3 years, I've seen this, that the legislatures up there gets a calendar of all the events that people schedule at the Capitol, whether it's reentry day, advocacy day, mental health awareness, reentry day. They get this list, right? And they know that 90% of the people that come up there on those days, they won't see the rest of the session. So they'll go in and they'll shake hands and tell them how important, second chances are to them, and how much they they understand, people are doing really great and hard work, or how that they, so excited to for the recovery efforts of people in the community. And then go into the community hearings and try to get a bill passed that is completely counterproductive to those statements that they just made. And we need to build a base to challenge that, to say, we're not just going to be up here for one day. You're not just going to hear from us one or two times throughout the 60-day session. We are going to be a continued presence, whether it's sending, calling, making phone calls, sending emails, doing op-eds for different publications, showing up there in committees, testifying. These are things that we are building out as a part of my work at AFSC, is building out a strong community-based, community engagement aspect. The communities in and around our state really are the ones suffering in a lot of these issues. One is that if you have people that are released from incarceration and they're working, they're paying taxes, right? Which brings more revenue into the communities. They're also spending their money in those communities, which brings more revenue, more resources. We are trying to build out that engagement process with those individuals. And we can only do it as we show, if we show that it's not just about this one issue. It's not just about this. It is about our community, our state as a whole. And we need, for the sanity and the safety and the growth of our state, we need to put in place policies that help people, not alienate them, and that really change the narrative of us and that, or the people we're mad at versus our community. Delegate Lewis gave factor that there's roughly 1.7 million people in the state in decline. Very true. There's people, our younger generations are leaving the state. Our older generations are dying off in the state. What can we do to change that? One is, if we change the policies, our younger generations, they're really not about policies that alienate people. It's about inclusivity, about people being seen as a human being, not just based off of a mistake that they made or decision that they made 20 or 30 years ago. There's a guy that I know in prison right now in Mount Olive, who was one of the first 10 people shipped to Mount Olive when Mount Olive was built. He's well in his 70s, been incarcerated for over 4 decades. He's 5'3", 100 pounds. All he wants to do, and he will say it over and over again, all he wants to do is be with his great grandkids. He has great grandkids. But because of the decision that he made when he was in his 20s, according to policy as it is right now, he'll never see the light of day. He'll die in that facility. And he's gone at least 20 years without a single individual write-up at that facility. How much of a danger is he really? We need to stop making policies about people that we're mad at and start making policies that actually help individuals. And that's what we feel Second Look and other policy initiatives can work. And we can't do it without people in the communities, as well as families, friends, anybody that cares about somebody, because everybody's affected. Doesn't matter if it's the taxpayer that's never done a day in prison, or if it's the family of the person incarcerated, or a friend, or a family member, a friend of a victim. Everybody is affected by these type of policies. And so we need to come together as a community and change them. And that's what we're trying to do. So again, I'm gonna put my name, email address, things in the chat so that anybody that wants to come on board, as I always say, I'm looking for accomplices, not, associates, because if I'm your accomplice, I'm gonna do everything to help you. If I'm just, advocate, friend, associate, I might not do anything to help you. I just say that I'm not going to hurt you. But I want accomplices in this work with me to get these policies and get these things done so we can change the narrative nationally. We can change the narrative within our state and really drive home the fact that West Virginia is a state that cares about its people. Is one of the most caring, most loving places in the country. I'd say probably in the world. But we're allowing certain little issues to change the narrative of how people see us in this state and how we see each other. And we need to change that. Otherwise, we're gonna be doomed. We're really gonna be doomed in this state.
Thank you, Kenny. If anybody has any questions, thoughts, comments, you can put them in the chat. You can come off mute.
I just wanted to say, when you mentioned sort of a compassionate geriatric release, I know Brian, I can never pronounce his last name, Lewin, and I actually worked on a bill about geriatric release, compassionate geriatric release. It didn't get taken up, but if I'm back, I plan to reintroduce it. And I want to say, and I want to add to your point, that in addition to having the accomplices that's actually doing the work on the ground with you, we have to make sure that we have representatives in our state legislature, whether it's on the Senate or delegate side, that's number one, that's knowledgeable about these issues. Because what I found is even those who've worked at different points or worked at different aspects of these issues, particularly on the side that I was on, dealing with prosecutors, law enforcement, different things like that. They just don't have the knowledge base as far as on the advocate side. And what I'm finding is that the information that you talked about, Kenny, on the advocate side, it has a direct effect on policies and different things that we have going on, the issues that we have going on to the state. So when you look at a declining population, when you look at our lack of workers, the different things of that nature, it all affects each other. So we got to make sure that we got to have representatives that actually care and are knowledgeable about these things as well.
Go ahead, Chris. I see your hand up.
Yep, thank you. So first, I just wanted to say, thank you to Delegate Lewis for all of your support of the Reach and all that you do. And, we appreciate you. I know Bev's did some trainings for you the last couple of months. And so I don't know if you know where she's at today and yesterday and today. I guess I can say since she's made it a Facebook post, but she is at the White House yesterday and today. I have no idea who she's meeting with. I don't know what she's doing. We will know when she gets back, but she is there for all of us, representing all of us and fighting the good fight for us. So she is a mentor for a lot of us. But so thank you for all of your support, Delegate Lewis. And then Kenny, you and Lyda have been a huge supporter for us, and go to bat for us a lot. And our story with Brandy, and she's our champion for second look sentencing. So, I appreciate all that you guys do. And I just wanted to thank you guys.
Well, I can tell you probably exactly what Bev's doing at the White House. Like she told me when they invited her to talk at the Capitol and they gave her an hour, they might not ever let her come back, but she gets it all out as much as she can.
Yeah.
Do not give Bev a mic because she will. If you don't like what she has to say, too bad. You're gonna listen anyway.
You're gonna hear it.
You
She
gonna
gonna
listen.
say it.
And I
Yeah.
say her training, her re-entry training is that was when we did our last CIT training, that was probably one of the best sessions that we had. I mean, it was eye-opening, it was thought-provoking, and it was awesome. She's a great teacher and presenter.
Yes, yes. She has been my mentor for more than 10 years now. And, the first time I met her, I was like, man, this is the most intimidating woman I've ever met in my life, but she knows what she is talking about, and I need to be around her and getting this. So, but yes, so. But thank you. And
Thank
then,
you, everybody.
the reentry simulation, that you mentioned, we can do those anywhere. So if you're interested in those, just let us know.
Yeah, I remember in 2022, I was part of the reentry simulation at the Capitol, and I was a judge. And boy, did they hate me playing the judge. I was acting just like how I've seen judges that, like, you got an attorney? No? All right, you're going to jail. You got money? Your family comes from money? All right, you got a fine. You don't go to jail. Oh, you ain't got no money? Go to jail. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, the delegates up there like, oh, this is not fair. Oh, you think?
We have done them actually inside of the facilities. So we did it at one of the prisons here in Kentucky. And we had the inmates working the tables and all of the facilities and stuff. So that was a turn of the table, literally a turn of the tables. And so that was interesting. So it was very eye-opening for the judges and the attorneys and the community leaders.
Yeah. Again, if anybody knows anybody with stories or wants to provide the stories, please get a hold of me. I'm trying to compile within the next probably 3 months, 15 to 20 stories of whether it's people incarcerated, men, women, or family members, friends, community members, to really create a storybook and show just how great the impact is of these different policies and how it really does affect everyone.
Yes.
Well, I'll give y'all 6 minutes of your time back today. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Kitty. Thank you, Delegate Lewis. You guys are more than welcome to come back on the 4th Tuesday of every month at 10 o'clock if you want to come hang out with us. But we will have new presenters every month. And Jeremy, I'm sorry I didn't know you were supposed to be presenting today, but I'll email you after this so we can make sure that you get to present at the next one.
No problem. No problem. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Delegate, did you want me for a second after this?
Who, me or him?
Delegate Lewis.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah, I want to stop the recording here before.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want me to just call you or you want to hang out here?
We can just we already here.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right, let me figure out how to stop the recording. I don't see it now.
Oh, hold on. I might have to make you back on the co-host. That's probably what happened
Okay.
because I have to keep switching so they could
Oh,
switch screens.
okay. Oh, wait a minute. I see it up there.